What's happening, guys, and welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Lockdown. One of my all-time favourite 2009 Deluxe releases. I mean, this figure quite literally is the definition of amazing, and I know there may be some of you wondering as to why a Transformers 2 design of Lockdown even exists, considering it wasn't until Transformers 4 where he really made his live-action movie debut, and that's simply because during 2007 until I want to say around 2011, it really wasn't uncommon for Hasbro to come out with conceptualized figures. So basically amazing characters which unfortunately just never made it into the final cut of the movie, and this Transformers 2 Lockdown is a prime example of that. So they basically took what was already an amazing design, that being his original animated look, and crossed it over with the movieverse aesthetic to create this absolute killer of a deluxe class, and damn, this thing is just sick. And in some ways I do think it is such a shame that he never made it into Transformers 2, because personally I think it would have made way more sense for him to have replaced Megatron. Can you guys imagine if the Fallen was to call upon the services of the legendary mercenary Lockdown to take out Optimus Prime? I just think that would have been epic. But in terms of this guy, I mean, the vehicle mode looks insane. They basically, as I said previously, took that animated design and just turned it up to the max. I mean, check out all of the serrated blades that we have packed into the side of the vehicle. Even the rims have these massive spikes jagging out to the sides, and I also like the animated touch of them keeping the EMP that he stole from Ratchet back in animated. So yeah, I mean, this vehicle mode is just absolutely incredible, and not only do I think he is a superior design to Revenge of the Fallen Megatron, but even that of the Transformers 4 Lockdown. I do just think this vehicle suits this character way nicer when in comparison to the Lamborghini. It is just such a nicely done looking figure. All four wheels on this thing roll out like an absolute dream, so he will have no problems in kneecapping the Autobots on the battlefield. And in some ways it also does remind me of the Rise of the Beast Scourge, not only in terms of how serrated and edgy it looks, but also in terms of the translucent orange that we have packed into the windscreen, as well as up front here for the headlights. This thing is just an absolute brute, and I'm going to be honest, guys, I think in terms of design and in particular plastic quality, really does put to shame some of the modern Voyager class releases. Now, as we check out a few comparisons, on the left we have the Transformers 2 Lockdown compared to the right, which is the original animated figure. And like I said previously, they literally took what they did for animated and just made the design so much better, in my opinion, which is something that I didn't think I'd ever say after checking this guy out, because this was an amazing release. But yeah, Revenge of the Fallen definitely is superior in my opinion, and it is such a shame that this design never graced the big screen, as in my opinion it would have been absolutely incredible. For a few other blasts from the past, see, we have the Hunt for the Decepticons Battle Blades Bumblebee, just so you guys can see roughly how these stack up. Here is the 2010 Deluxe Class Elita 1. The Transformers Studio Series Age of Extinction Lockdown. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the Lamborghini Aventador, but I'm gonna be honest, guys, for Lockdown, this is the vehicle he should have had. I mean, this looks amazing, but come on, can you guys imagine how wicked it would have been to have seen an actual, realistic live-action movie version of this vehicle on set? It just would have been insane. I mean, you saw how epic Scourge's vehicle was, and in particular Dark of the Moon Megatron's. So yeah, I really think they could have cooked up something special here with this kind of animated Lockdown design, but that's how these two stack up. And in case you're wondering as to how he compares alongside modern figures, here he is with the Rise of the Beast Deluxe Class Bumblebee. So to be fair, in terms of vehicle mode, whilst he is bigger and definitely feels way more hefty, I do think the scale doesn't work out too badly. I mean, this is kind of a souped up modified car, so should just be in general way bigger when in comparison to the Camaro. And bang! Here we have the Revenge of the Fallen Lockdown, fully transformed into his insanely cool looking robot mode. And this guy just looks fantastic. You know, as I mentioned previously, a great translation from Transformers animated into live action, and one of the meanest looking Decepticons that I think we saw from that Revenge of the Fallen toy line. So as we get stuck into the details, I mean, first of all, that face sculpt is the one that would wipe you off the face of the planet. This thing is so evil looking. I like how we kind of get these bolts shot through his chin, some amazing light pipe prototyping, and due to the articulation you can completely extend the neck upwards, which just makes those eyes look crazy. And I also like that, much like his animated counterpart, they kept the asymmetry. So for example, the armor on this side is completely different to this side. Because this guy is a bounty hunter, a mercenary, to me it would make sense that maybe he'd be scavenging for scraps, and perhaps this is why he does have this asymmetrical look. So that's really sick, and I love the detail that we've got packed into the torso. You know, the way the windscreen becomes the chest piece is awesome, and much like in animated, he also has Ratchet's EMP blaster. Now, a really nice Easter egg is that if you were to pick up the Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Ratchet, his blaster would be compatible with this Lockdown figure, so that's fantastic. Now, unlike his animated counterpart where the hook was kind of interchangeable with a humanoid hand, this time round it is a permanent fixture attached to the arm, which personally I think looks awesome, you know, coupled with some really sick piston detail. That's great. I mean, it is made out of a very pliable piece of plastic, but has held up super nicely over time, and he also has those classic Michael Bay chicken legs, but to be honest, I think they work in Lockdown's favour because it really does help to go along with this whole kind of creepy, Slender-like vibe that I do get from this Lockdown design. And in terms of kibble, there is next to none. I mean, check out the butt. That actually looks really cool with the quadruple stacks kind of sticking out. So yeah, this thing is just an absolute monster in terms of design, and I hope one day we can see this design on the big screen because it would definitely be a villain to remember. Now, in terms of articulation, because originally this guy did come out in 2009, you would think that maybe the articulation would be a little dated. Well, absolutely not. It could not be further from the truth. So in terms of the head, we have so many ball joints. I mean, check this out. You can completely extend the head. You can have it looking left to right as well as rotating up and down, and that is all in addition to the actual neck swivel. So that is absolutely fantastic. The shoulders are on ball joints, so can move the full 360 out to the sides. Ball jointed elbows. Unfortunately, nothing packed into the wrist, but due to the slender-like nature, I completely understand as to why. This hook hand is pretty much static with the exception of the really cool kind of piston Mecha Life gimmick, so that's pretty sweet. And he also has an ab crunch, which is mainly due to transformation, but that is epic, especially for getting him into some of those slightly more dynamic poses. The hips will kick forwards that far, back to that far, as well as out to the sides. And Revenge of the Fallen's big gimmick was Mecha Life, so check this out. As you rotate the thigh, check out the detail rotating along with that joint. So yeah, once again, absolutely incredible. And due to the chicken-like design of the leg, he does have two joints, which you can fully extend to make this guy an absolute giant. And I mean, trust me, he is one of the biggest deluxe class figures that I own in my collection. So if you extend these joints, then he's definitely borderline leader class. And when I initially got him, I thought, damn, he doesn't have any proper ankle pivot, but that isn't actually the case, because instead of packing the ankle joint in the foot, they've kind of embedded it within the shin, which personally I think works just as well. So overall, in terms of articulation, you can most definitely get this guy into all of the poses that you could maybe get out of some of the current Studio Series figures. So yeah, alongside the likes of the Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime, this guy is going to look absolutely killer, and that orange plastic is just awesome because much like Scourge, it really does give you the impression that internally this guy is on fire. So yeah, Revenge of the Fallen Lockdown, an absolute beast of a Decepticon design. Now, as we check out a few Robot Mode comparisons, on the left we have the Transformers 2 Lockdown compared to the right, which is the original animated figure, and both of these are knockouts. I mean, they really are some of the best figures that were released in their toy lines. I mean, this was definitely one of the best animated figures, and like I said, really and truly one of the best Revenge of the Fallen figures. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I do find the Revenge of the Fallen design to be slightly more badass when in comparison to what we saw from animated, and not to mention, these things are massive. I mean, this animated Lockdown, I'd say is roughly leader scale by today's standards, maybe even slightly bigger, and you can make this guy even taller if you decide to extend those chicken legs. So yeah, back in the day, animated Lockdown figures definitely were huge. And to show his scale even further, here he is stacked up alongside the Rise of the Beasts leader class Scourge, and it's so crazy to see how scale has kind of evolved over the past couple of years for Transformers, because this was a 2009 deluxe release and this is a 2023 leader class. Now, of course, in terms of engineering, this Scourge is a lot more sophisticated when in comparison to this Lockdown, but yeah, there definitely is a massive discrepancy in terms of how these two size up, but as I mentioned previously, in terms of design, I really do see a few similarities between these guys. You know, they both have this kind of skeletal vibe going on, they have asymmetry in terms of the way their arms are designed. Next up, here we have the Revenge of the Fallen Voyager class Megatron, the buzzworthy Bumblebee Voyager Optimus Prime. So again, this Lockdown is a big figure, Studio Series Deluxe Class Bumblebee. And then next up here we have the Studio Series Age of Extinction Lockdown. So as you guys can see, unfortunately there really aren't too many similarities in terms of the design. I mean, besides the claw, this Lockdown from Age of Extinction really does look like an entirely different character. And don't get me wrong, I still think Lockdown is one of the best live action movie villains that we've ever had, but there is no denying and saying that he would have looked way more badass had he adopted something which was a little more similar here to the Transformers 2 design than as opposed to what we ended up seeing in Transformers 4. Then we have the Studio Series Rise of the Beasts Leader Class Optimus Primal. And then finally, to round things off, here is the Studio Series The Fallen. And how epic would have it been to have seen these two throwing it down against Jet-Powered Prime instead of Megatron. I definitely think Lockdown would have put up more of a fight than what we saw from Megatron in Transformers 2. So yeah, why The Fallen didn't use Lockdown is just crazy, but I think they look pretty cool next to each other. And so, wrapping up on this throwback review for the Transformers Revenge of the Fallen Deluxe Class Lockdown. This guy's absolutely incredible. I mean, as I mentioned previously, one of the best 2009 Deluxes that I own in my entire collection, and it's crazy to think that he never even made it into the movie, yet Hasbro really did outdo themselves with this release. I'd go as far as saying that this figure decimates any of the Megatrons that they brought out for that Revenge of the Fallen toy line. This guy is just killer in terms of the way both vehicle and robot mode look. The articulation for something which did release in 2009 is off the charts, and I think if they ever were to remake this design for Studio Series, you know, maybe if they ever bring out a conceptualized subline, I honestly don't think it would be as good as this guy, because I just think he's incredible. You know, he really is a product of his time. He's a massive deluxe class, towering over the likes of even some modern leader class figures. He's awesome. If you're a fan of Lockdown, you're a fan of the live action movies, then I really could not recommend enough to try and track this figure down, because he is just absolutely insane. I'd love to get your thoughts on this Lockdown down in the comment section below, and until my next video, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.